The human body is basically a walking chemistry experiment. We need exactly 2 Brazil nuts for our daily selenium, but eat 3 too many and we're in trouble. Isn't it wild how precise nutrition can be?
That's such a fascinating way to think about it. And speaking of precise nutrition, those Brazil nuts are actually a perfect example of how nature packages nutrients in exactly the right amounts.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about these natural packages lately, especially with vitamin D. The way our bodies manufacture it from sunlight is pretty incredible, but here's what's really interesting: mushrooms can do the same thing.
Oh, let me add something surprising about that. When you expose mushrooms to sunlight, they produce vitamin D2 just like our skin produces D3. It's this remarkable parallel in biology.
That's exactly what I've been reading about, and there's more. Vitamin D needs vitamin K2 as a partner for proper absorption. It's like this intricate dance of nutrients. Have you heard about this connection?
Well, the research on this is fascinating. K2 helps direct calcium to our bones rather than our arteries, which is why it's so crucial to pair them. You can find it in fermented foods like natto and certain plant-based products.
Speaking of crucial combinations, let's talk about vitamin E. Most people don't realize that the recommended dose is between 100 to 200 IU daily, but here's the kicker: it works significantly better when you get it from whole foods rather than supplements.
That makes me wonder about absorption rates. Why do you think whole food sources are more effective?
Well, it's this amazing thing where nature packages vitamin E with complementary compounds that help our bodies utilize it better. You'll find it in almonds, sunflower seeds, and avocados, all foods that contain beneficial fats that aid absorption.
That's such an important point about natural synergies, and it reminds me of how B vitamins work together as a complex system.
Oh man, the B vitamins are fascinating. You've got this whole family: B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B9, all working together like a well-oiled machine. But B12, that's the real superstar we need to talk about.
Let me share something critical about B12. The recommended dose is 25, 100 micrograms daily, or 2,000, 5,000 micrograms weekly, and the methylcobalamin form is superior to cyanocobalamin.
You know what's wild? Our ancestors probably got B12 from unwashed produce and natural water sources. Now we need to be so intentional about it, especially on a plant-based diet. The modern world has really changed how we need to think about nutrition.
That's a fascinating historical perspective, and it explains why B12 supplementation is so crucial now, especially with our sanitized food system.
Right? And this brings us back to the bigger picture. We're discovering that these vitamins don't work in isolation. They're part of this incredible network of nutrients that all support each other. Like how vitamin D needs both K2 and adequate magnesium to function properly.
And that's why getting regular blood work is so important. It helps us understand our individual needs in this complex system.
Exactly. And here's what I think is the most important takeaway. While we can isolate these nutrients in labs and put them in supplements, there's something special about getting them from whole foods. Nature seems to know best how to package these nutrients for optimal absorption.
That's such a powerful conclusion. It's like we're finally understanding what nature knew. All along, these nutrients work best as part of a whole system, not in isolation.
Looking ahead, I think we're going to see more research on these nutrient relationships. We might discover that what we know now is just the tip of the iceberg. The future of nutrition could be less about individual vitamins and more about understanding these complex interactions.
And that could completely change how we approach supplementation and dietary recommendations in the years to come.
I've been diving deep into the Sutras, which describe consciousness as this constantly vibrating energy. It's remarkable how they understood consciousness, not as something static, but as a dynamic force similar to how quantum physics describes the universe today.
That reminds me of some recent research about brainwave patterns during meditation. How do these ancient texts suggest working with this vibrational nature of consciousness?
They actually outline several practical methods. One fascinating approach involves using specific aromas like sandalwood to activate what they call the Ajna chakra, our intuitive center. Modern studies have shown that certain scents can indeed trigger specific neural pathways and alter brain activity patterns.
Oh wow, so they were essentially doing aromatherapy for brain optimization thousands of years ago?
Exactly. And here's what's really interesting. They combine these aromatic practices with visual meditation using yantras, these intricate geometric patterns. Recent research in neuroscience suggests that certain geometric patterns can actually induce specific brainwave states associated with enhanced cognition and intuition.
You know, that makes me think about how modern technology often uses similar geometric interfaces to enhance user focus and attention.
Right? And there's this powerful mantra they use, Om Shivaya, which, according to the Pratyabhijña-sutras, creates specific vibrational patterns in the brain. Modern studies using EEG machines have actually shown that certain sound frequencies can synchronize brain activity in remarkable ways.
So these ancient practitioners were essentially creating a multisensory approach to consciousness expansion?
Precisely. And what's particularly fascinating is how the Netra-sutras specifically address the connection between physical vision and intuitive insight. They understood that our visual processing centers are linked to higher cognitive functions, something neuroscience is just now mapping out in detail.
That's incredible how they made these connections without any of our modern technology. What kind of results have you noticed from practicing these techniques?
Well, after about 3 weeks of consistent practice, I started noticing enhanced pattern recognition and clearer decision-making abilities. The texts actually predict this timeline, suggesting it takes about 21 days for these neural pathways to strengthen, another correlation with modern neuroplasticity research.
That's really promising for people looking to develop their intuitive abilities. What would you recommend as a starting point?
The text suggests beginning with what I call the triple approach, combining sandalwood aromatherapy, the Aum Shivaya mantra, and simple geometric visualization. Modern research indicates that this kind of multisensory approach can accelerate neural pathway development.
And I imagine consistency is key in developing these abilities?
Absolutely right. The text emphasized that steady patient practice is essential. They compare it to learning a new language, which modern neuroscience confirms follows similar patterns of neural network development. Just 15 minutes daily can create significant changes in brain function over time.
These ancient insights seem more relevant than ever in our information overloaded world.
That's really the key point in an age where we're bombarded with data. These time-tested methods for developing clearer insight and intuition aren't just helpful. They're essential for maintaining cognitive clarity and making better decisions.
Yogis discovered something remarkable specific. Breathing patterns can literally rewire your nervous system and transform your consciousness. The science behind these techniques is finally catching up to what practitioners have known for thousands of years.
That's fascinating. How exactly do these ancient practices affect our modern bodies and minds?
Well, take Vrishchikasana, the scorpion pose. Research shows it activates the parasympathetic nervous system while building incredible physical strength. When you're balancing in a forearm stand with your feet curved towards your head, you're not just working your muscles, you're rewiring your stress response.
The physical demands of that pose sound intense. What kind of preparation does it take to attempt something so advanced?
You know, it's interesting studies show that gradual progression through preparatory poses reduces injury risk by 60%. I spent months building shoulder stability through dolphin pose before even attempting the full expression.
That makes sense. I've been working with pigeon pose, and even that can feel pretty intense some days.
Eka Pada Rajakapotasana. Research from the International Journal of Yoga Therapy shows that hip opening poses like pigeon can release stored trauma. They've measured actual changes in cortisol levels during these poses.
That explains why I sometimes get emotional in hip openers. What other poses have significant physiological effects?
Hanumanasana, the splits pose, is fascinating. Beyond flexibility, it triggers the body's proprioceptive system, improving overall balance and spatial awareness. Traditional texts say it helps cultivate courage, just like its namesake, Hanuman.
The mind-body connection in these practices seems incredibly deep. What about the breathing techniques?
The pranayama practices are where things get really interesting. Sitali breathing, where you curl your tongue and inhale, has been shown to lower body temperature by up to 2 degrees Celsius in clinical studies.
That's remarkable, though I've heard not everyone can curl their tongue that way.
Exactly right. It's a genetic trait that about 65% of people have. That's why there's Sitali breathing, where you create a small space between your teeth instead. Both techniques stimulate the vagus nerve, which research shows can reduce anxiety by up to 35%.
These ancient practices seem incredibly relevant for modern stress management. What other breathing techniques have measurable effects?
Brahmari, or bee breath, is particularly powerful. Studies show the vibration frequency matches alpha brainwaves, promoting deep relaxation. EEG readings during Brahmari practice show increased coherence between brain hemispheres.
The scientific validation of these ancient practices is fascinating. How do you integrate breath work with the physical poses?
Recent research suggests combining specific breath patterns with asanas can increase oxygen uptake by up to 40%. When I'm working on scorpion pose, starting with cooling breaths actually improves balance and reduces fear response.
That's incredible. The ancient yogis really seem to understand human physiology at a deep level.
They did, and modern neuroscience is validating their insights. For instance, studies show that regular pranayama practice can increase heart rate variability, a key marker of stress resilience.
You've definitely inspired me to explore these practices more deeply. Where would you recommend starting?
Research indicates that just 5 minutes of conscious breathing can activate the relaxation response. Start with simple seated Brahmari studies show. Consistent practice for 8 weeks can significantly reduce anxiety and improve sleep quality.
That's actually really manageable. These practices seem both profound and practical.
Exactly, and that's why they've endured for thousands of years. Whether you're working toward advanced poses or just beginning to explore the breath, you're tapping into a scientifically validated system for transformation.